Section 1.3 is somewhat of an Algebra 2 review, even so much as an Algebra 1 review, and it has to do with graphing linear equations. Obviously, a linear equation, when you put it on the coordinate plane, will graph a line. It has the word line in it, so any linear equation, when graph, produces a line. Graphing can be done by using the x and the y intercept, in other words, where it crosses the x and the y axis. That's one method of graphing a linear equation. So, for example, let's say I have this equation and I want to graph using the x and the y intercept. To find the x-intercept, I'm going to let the y equals 0, because if I come over here and I literally graph this, any point on the x-axis would have a y value of 0, so that's why you let the y equal 0. So then you're going to take this equation and you're just going to plug in 0 for the y and you're going to solve for the x. So I have 3x minus 0 minus 2 equals 0. 3x minus 2 equals 0. If you go ahead and solve for it, you're going to see that x is equal to 2/3. So I have the point y is 0 and the x is 2/3. So I would come over here and I would go 2/3 over and I would put a point, 2/3, 0. Then your y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So anywhere along this line, your x is going to equal 0. So you let x equal 0. And again, you use that equation. 3 times 0 minus y minus 2 equals 0. Negative y equals positive 2, or y equals negative 2. So this is the point 0, negative 2. So you put this on the graph, you put this on the graph, and then you connect it. So that is graphing using the x and the y intercept. Let's do another one of those. So the x-intercept, remember, you're going to let the y equal 0. So I have x plus 2 times 0 minus 4 equals 0. So I have x minus 4 equals 0, or x equals 4. So I have the point 4, 0. And then the y-intercept, you're going to let the x equal 0. So I have 0 plus 2y minus 4 equals 0, or 2y minus 4 equals 0. You're solving and you find out that y is equal to 2. So that's the point 0, 2. So I'm taking those 2 points and I'm putting it on the coordinate plane, and then I'm drawing a line through it, and that's going to graph that equation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0, 2. And so that is the line of that equation. Okay, some of the characteristics of a line. You might have the slope. And the slope is, remember, the angle of the line. And the slope formula is the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. Now I'm hoping that you remember that a slope formula can be positive, it can be negative, it could be 0, it could be vertical. We'll get to that in a minute. If I have any 2 points, I can always find any 2 points that this line goes through. So let's say the line goes through negative 4, 5, and negative, I don't know, 6, negative 2. Okay, and I want to know the slope of the line that goes through those 2 points, then literally I have 5 minus a negative 2 over negative 4 minus 6. I'm just plugging in these points. That's going to give me a 7 over a negative 10, and that would be the slope of the line that goes through those. If I wanted to find the slope of this line from up here, I would use these 2 points. So the difference in the y's, so I have 0 minus 2, those are the y values, and 4 minus 0, those are the that's the x values. So that's going to give me a negative 2 over 4, reduces to negative 1/2. So the slope of this line here is negative 1/2. Okay, remember that's the rise over the run. Okay. Some of the other things about a linear equation. Linear equations can be written in standard form. That's standard form. Linear equations can also be written in slope-intercept form, which is the form that we use most often for graphing. The m here is your slope. The b here is the y-intercept. So if I use this, and this is the easiest way to graph a line, if I wanted to graph that line right there, refreshing your mind, you're going to go down to, okay, that's the y-intercept. Then you're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to draw the line through those, and that's going to be the line that goes with that equation. Let's do a couple more. Okay, again, the y-intercept is the 4, so I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The slope is negative 1/2, so I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 2. And that's the line that matches that equation. This one is not in the right form, so I'd have to put it in y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to subtract the 3x from both sides, which then turns around and puts it in the correct form. So then in graphing here, I'm going to go up 6 because that's the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put a point. The slope is negative 3 or negative 3 over 1. So 1, 2, 3 down and 1 to the right, which gives me that line. Remind you of the 4 possible types of slopes. Let me draw 4 graphs on here. Well, it's not very straight. All right, if I have a line that rises, so in other words, when I go from left to right, it's going up, that is a positive slope. If I have a line that's falling when I go from left to right, that's a negative slope. If I have a horizontal line, that's going to have a slope of 0. If I have a vertical line, that's going to have an undefined slope. Those are the 4 possible types of slopes you can have. All right, the last thing in this section has to do with the zeros of a function. And basically that is where the equation is equal to 0. In other words, what value does x need to be for the equation to equal 0? Often it's the same as where the equation crosses the x-axis. So if I was going to try and find the zeros of this equation, I literally take the equation and set it equal to 0 and solve for it. Okay, so the f of x here is going to be equal to 0, but remember that also means y is equal to 5x plus 4. The f of x is the same thing as y. If I go to solve for this, I have 5x is equal to negative 4. Divide by the 5, I have a negative 4/5. That is the 0 of that equation. That is also called the roots or the solution of the equation. If I were to graph this, where it crosses down here, well, actually I missed the line, but it would cross at negative 4/5. So that's where you see it's the same thing. Okay, sometimes there are no zeros in an equation. This would be the same thing as 0 equals negative 2, which doesn't exist, which you know when you graph this, that is a horizontal line through negative 2. This is y is equal to negative 2. There's no zeros. It doesn't cross. It never crosses, so there, when it asks you for the zeros of it, it would be none. All right, the homework on this is page 24, 12 through 30 even.